everybody. Alyssa Robinson here. Welcome to Spill. I am here with baby boomer David Taylor. I have known David since I was 9 years old. He was one of my youth leaders. We have a very special relationship in that he was a leader to me as a kid, and as I grew into adulthood, we have become friends. And so we're kind of doing a baby boomer versus millennial thing because our theme this week is assumptions based on age. So he is the representative and the voice of the baby boomer generation.
The heavy load to carry.
Yeah, so if any of y'all have an issue with anything he has to say, take it up with him. But I'm really excited that you're here. We actually just finished recording a podcast, and so I'd really like to encourage you to check it out. Go to tmumc.org/spill. But we're just going to give you a little preview of some of the things that we talked about in the podcast. So I really just want to start off by asking, what are some of the stereotypes that you've heard about baby boomers from other people or just from the news or whatever?
Well, the big one is that we ruined everything. We ruined the planet. We ruined the economy. We've ruined the government. It's all our fault. Another one is that we don't care about the environment, that efforts to improve the environment are lost on us. That we're out of touch with technology, that we can't keep up. Things change too fast for us. And another one I hear all the time is that we're a burden. I mean, the baby boomers got their name because we were a very large generation of kids born between 45 and 65. And so we have been a force to be reckoned with all of our lives. As we went to each stage, things would change to accommodate the baby boomers. And so now we're entering into retirement. And so what I hear is we're a burden. We've got to take care of all these old people.
And not even just that. Well, which, first of all, a lot of those stereotypes, I think all of us know are completely unfair. But I think that it tends to come from a place of fear, especially, as a millennial, looking at the baby boomers hitting retirement, taking Social Security. None of us are expecting to have access to Social Security or Medicare or anything by the time that we're to that age, because it feels like it's going to be depleted by no fault of your own. It's not your fault that there was a boom of babies.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's really interesting. Do you think that there is any truth to those stereotypes?
Partial. I think that's kind of the nature of stereotypes. There's a partial truth in that we grew up in a time of plenty. Things got better every year. From the day I was born, things just kept improving, and that became the norm, right? Regardless of the effect on the environment or things like that. I think the falsehood is that we don't care because, we took lead out of gasoline, right? We stopped polluting the rivers. The smokestacks don't blow black smoke into the air, things like that. So we do care about the environment, maybe not in the same ways that other generations care about the environment. So I think there's some truth to it. Yes, certainly we're going to be a force to be reckoned with in our retirement age, just like we have at every other stage. But it's not like I've got to go recruit 3 millennials to support me while I'm old. That would be nice if you're interested.
I'm not interested.
I'm looking to sign some people up. But I think
my sister might be.
The drain on Social Security, that's not exactly all our fault. There were some decisions made years and years ago about how Social Security money would be treated, and it's all been spent. That's not our fault. We paid into Social Security just like y'all do. But to be honest, me personally, I'm not dependent on Social Security. So, but that doesn't mean I want to give it up. You know what I mean? But there are people in my generation that are dependent on Social Security, so they very much need it to be there. I think Social Security will be there for your generation. You may have to be 85 before it kicks in, because that seems to be what they're doing now, is upping the age. But
Well,
it'll be
and on
good.
the flip side, what are some of stereotypes that your generation has about the millennial generation,
About
about
the
my side?
millennials,
Yeah.
well, things like you have no work ethic,
Mm.
that you can't handle adversity. You know, you need your teddy bear in a cuddle room and somebody to give you some warm milk every time something goes wrong. That you don't care about us, right? That you would just soon we go away and then you can have it all. And that another myth is that your generation is willing to bankrupt the economy for the sake of the environment.
Mm.
And I don't think any of those are actually true. You know, I have kids that are millennials and they care about me. And as far as work ethics, I think your generation has a different approach to work than my generation did. Doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just different. And because it's different, we tend to see it as wrong. But you're not fitting into the molds that we stepped into. And so an 8 to 5 job is not necessarily what you want. And, you know, other stereotypes like one thing I'm very jealous of is that men in your generation seem to be free to be nurturers if that's one of their gifts. And so you see more and more dads staying home taking care of the children. And we're even starting to see advertisements on TV for children products, diapers and bottles and things, geared towards men versus women. I'm kind of jealous of that. Not that I ever wanted to stay home with my kids, but at least men in your generation seem to have more of an option to do that if that's what they want to do. I know that's pretty broad brush, but for the most part, it's starting to change, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I think your generation has more of an emphasis. What is the buzzword y'all use on like personal time and me time?
Me
I
time.
need some mental health time. You know, and I'll admit I poked fun at that when I first heard it, but there's some truth in that.
Self-care.
Oh my gosh.
Love yourself. Treat yourself. That's
You know, we didn't feel bold enough to step up and say anything like that to the generation we were going to work for. We just fell in line, and or at least I did, and just showed up when the whistle blew, and you worked till the whistle blew.
Yeah, and that we talked about that a little bit in the podcast too, of the difference between the way that we relate and respond to our employers. For a
Oh, yeah.
millennial, it's a job, and it's something that I am seeking passion in, and it's about what am I getting out of it, not necessarily feeling loyal to my employer specifically, but more of a loyalty of what am I trying to accomplish, and and if that means that I switch jobs every 2 years, every 3 years to gain the experience that I need, that's accepted, and it's seen as a power move and a very strong move, which wasn't the case in your
No.
generation. That would have been a huge red flag for an employer.
Right, you would have been labeled a job hopper, and that was not a good thing. And that's something I think you guys are doing that's very smart. Corporations today don't have any loyalty to the employees. The employees are no more than a forklift or a wrench to the company. And so you should get a job for what it's going to do for you, either income or experience or contacts to step over. To get to the original, whatever the ultimate position is you're looking for. My generation bought into the idea that you could go to work for a company and put in your 40 years and they would take care of you. And that turned out not to be true. So that was a hard lesson for us to learn. And many of us lost our jobs along the way. We had to get used to the fact you're going to have 4, 5, or 6 jobs in your career. And your generation saw that happen to us. And so you picked up on there is no loyalty from the company. Why should I be loyal to the company? That's very smart on your part.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to spill with us today. This is just a tiny preview of some of the things that we talked about during the podcast. We talked about spirituality. We talked about current events that shaped us and our upbringing based on generation. So I hope you'll go to tmumc.org/spill and check it out. Maybe some of the things that you were hearing from us sound familiar to you if you're a millennial, if you're a baby boomer, but we also can't forget the Gen Xers and the Gen Z and the greatest generation. I know. So what I want you to do is I want you to leave in the comments, what is something that you think defined your generation or a stereotype that you've heard about your own generation? And let's start a conversation. So I hope that you'll tune into the podcast. And thank you so much, David, for being willing to come in and have this conversation with us and open up a little bit about your life.
Thank you for having me.